Sydney's lockdown, destroying jobs. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.Heise here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee. We're going to have a look at an article from ABC News discussing, the impact of Sydney's second citywide COVID lockdown and how that's hitting jobs. Sydney's second citywide COVID lockdown is hitting jobs harder than its first. Well, the extended lockdowns in Sydney have hit its payroll jobs harder than last year's lockdowns, with construction jobs significantly harder, economists say. New data shows payroll jobs in Greater Sydney have fallen nearly 9% since lockdowns began on June 26th, with construction payroll dropping more than 22% across New South Wales. Westpac economist Justin Smirk says it's clear the city is suffering, with the economic damage gaining momentum. Sydney is being hit hard, at least as hard, if not harder, this time than it was in early 2020, he wrote in a note to his clients. Sydney payroll contracted 4.9% in the last 2 weeks, down 8.9% since the start of the lockdown. In early 2020, the peak to trough in Sydney payrolls was down 8%. It does appear that the negative momentum in Sydney is accelerating, he said. Now, this is all based on the weekly payroll data, so it's much newer data, much fresher data, really, that's probably the term to use, than what we're getting from the unemployment rate, the job ads, and the business confidence. So, people are having to be stood down. Some care had to be taken with the payroll data because of changes the government have made to disaster relief payments for these lockdowns. So what does the payroll data mean? The ABS classifies payroll jobs as employee jobs for which a payment is recorded through the single-touch payroll system to the ATO. Payroll data counts jobs, not employees. So you could have multiple jobs, and some people do and need to. The payroll series is different from the ABS's monthly labour force survey, which counts the number of people employed rather than the number of jobs. However, this lockdown is very different from last year's lockdown in at least one major way. In last year's lockdown, when workers received emergency government support, it came from JobKeeper, and that meant they were paid via their employer through the payroll system. So they remained in the payroll series and they were considered employed. But this time things are different. In these lockdowns, the COVID-19 disaster payments are paid directly to workers, not via employers. And that means workers who receive the emergency payout will fall out of the payroll series, but they could still be classified as employed if they haven't lost their jobs. For example, they may have been temporarily stood down or worked 0 hours and not been paid anything by their boss, but they haven't been officially let go. He said that made it difficult to directly compare the payroll data in this lockdown to last year's. However, in Greater Sydney and New South Wales generally had clearly been hit hardest by these lockdowns, with the significant fall in payrolls. He said next month's labour force data would capture much of the damage, with different data when hours worked dropped off significantly. In New South Wales, construction payroll fell 14.5% in the last 2 weeks to be down 22.8% since the start of the lockdown. This is a significantly larger hit than seen in early 2020 when New South Wales construction payroll fell 4.9%. This is also true for both accommodation and food services and retail payrolls, which have contracted 32.8% and 11.4% respectively since the start of the lockdowns, compared to 14.4% and 1.2% decline respectively in early 2020. Payroll data captures recent destruction, especially in New South Wales. Bjorn Jarvis, the head of labour statistics at the ABS, said the last fortnight of July among the larger employing industries, accommodation and food services, retail, trade and construction had the greatest share of payroll job losses across the country. The latest fortnight of data coincided with increasing restrictions in the 4th and 5th week of lockdown in New South Wales, including a pause in construction activity, Mr. Jarvis said. It also included lockdowns in Victoria and South Australia and travel and border restrictions across all states and territories. Payroll job losses in the accommodation and food services, retail, trade and construction industries accounted for 44.3% of job losses across Australia in the second half of July and 45.4% in New South Wales. New South Wales accounted for the largest share of national job losses in all three industries, accounting for around half of payroll jobs in lost accommodation and food services. around 2/3 in retail trade, and around 3/4 in the construction industry, the ABS said. Payroll job losses follow a fall in the unemployment rate. The payroll job losses have coincided with a counterintuitive fall in the official unemployment rate. In July, the national unemployment rate fell from 4.9% to 4.6%, a 13-year low. However, and here's the kicker, that occurred because thousands of workers left the labor force altogether. People are giving up, or people aren't looking for work. That's concerning. That's the big fear, that you'll have intergenerational scarring, that you'll have the youngest people giving up. I don't know how. How would you feel if you graduate from uni right now? Coming out in New South Wales. So especially in New South Wales, which meant the pool of official unemployed people became smaller nationally. The byproduct was the official unemployment rate fell, but it wasn't for good reasons. Nonetheless, economists expect the official unemployment rate will rise again in coming months as the economy flirts with recession. Commonwealth Bank's economics team expects the national unemployment rate to jump from 4.9% to 5.6% in October. So what do you all think, everyone? What's the solution and takeaway to this? Well, what we're seeing here is the impact of these lockdowns. There's a cost associated with it. And the ramifications of this will result in unemployment, jobs lost, businesses destroyed, and it will ripple on for months. It's not going to be instant. There's a disaster that happens, and that's a lockdown, a restriction. And there's going to be businesses that won't realize that's the end of them for some time. We've got to understand that's the price we're paying. So we've got a duty of care to those who we're causing damage to. Wouldn't you think? Anyway, guys, let me know your take on this one. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan and enjoy the content I create here, there are a few ways you can support us. You can join us on YouTube or Patreon. Sign up for SelfWealth or Stake. Use our affiliate links at Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve, or AussieBroadband. You can buy our merch from HeiseSays, use Gold Pass from the Perth Mint, or support us via PayPal. Take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.